When I first saw the man, my impression was that he seemed different, unique. I worked in a space station, so I was no stranger to seeing species that I had never seen before. Yet they all shared the same basic features. You could tell what sector of the galaxy, and even sometimes what types of planets they came from, just by looking at their characteristics. He was different. I couldn't quite place my finger on where he might have come from, and eventually curiosity got the better of me, so I quietly shifted over to get a better look. I watched as he sat himself down at a nearby window, and he stared out into the stars, longingly. Weirdly, even his movements seemed off, almost alien. Once again, my curiosity got the better of me, and I walked over to the strange person, motioning towards the seat as if asking him if I could sit down. He said something, but it wasn't in my language. It wasn't in my language. Out of all the things I had seen, this was the one that caught me the most off guard. The Galactic Council agreed on the use of one universal language over 1,000 years ago. He must have noticed that I didn't understand what he said via my awkward staring and chuckled. Slowly, he pulled some kind of device out of his pocket and stuck it in his ear. Sorry about that. Sit down. He turned back to the window. He seemed to be using some kind of translation device that altered his speech, but it had this strange accent. It almost sounded like the station AI system, but somehow less monotone, as though there was an actual person behind it. He asked me my name. I guess it was a rather polite way to start off a conversation, so I responded, James. Francis, he said back. Then we started talking. We were having a conversation about the engineering of the station. His dialogue hinted that he wasn't from this sector, since he didn't seem to know a lot about how the station was structured. I also thought this was weird, because I had visited the stations in many different nearby sectors, and the engineering remained relatively unchanged. I shrugged it off, however, thinking that he could have been from a much further area. I brought up his species, wanting to know more about where he came from. I immediately regretted it, as it seemed a little disrespectful of me, but he didn't seem to care. He looked unsurprised, as though he was expecting this comment. Suddenly, he started talking about his home planet, and I listened with a sharp sense of interest. He told stories of what sounded to me like a paradise, of a diverse collection of beaches, deserts, forests, and cities. He called it Earth. He said he belonged to a race titled the Humans, a species I had, predictably, never heard of before. Then he asked about me. I talked about my background, how I had grown up on one of the many hive planets, and how I had turned to the stars after getting sick of it. How I moved to that very station, looking for work, and was quickly taken in as an engineer working on a government-funded project. A hyperdrive, capable of traveling to other galaxies. He chuckled when I said this, and while I found it a bit distasteful, I continued on with my story. When all was said and done, he thanked me for the company, then got up and started towards his ship. It was then that I saw it. It seemed so alien. I guess it wasn't out of character for him. It looked advanced, like nothing I had ever seen before. I realized I had not yet gotten a chance to ask where exactly this Earth was, and not wanting to miss this opportunity, I called out to him, asking which sector of the galaxy he came from. He looked at me and stated simply, "Oh, I'm not from this galaxy."